Greetings and welcome to Few Minute Excel, episode number 3. Today we're going to be talking about 5 formulas that I've used in my daily work processes and some that I think you might be able to use in yours if you aren't already. To give you an idea, I've written down just kind of an example of the 5 formulas we'll be looking at today, and we're going to go through each one and show you how you can use them to the best of your ability. So the first formula we'll be looking at is the sum formula, and the sum formula is basic mathematic calculations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, things like that. The second formula we'll be looking at is the if formula. Now the if formula, what it does is it takes a test situation and says if that test situation is true, do something. If it's not true, do something else. Really simple but very powerful. And for a long time, this was my go-to statement. I could do a lot of things with this if statement. So you'll learn how you can do that as well. The today statement is very simple. It enters today's date into whatever cell you put it in. Particularly useful for reporting. So if you have to send something to someone every single day, this is the formula that you can use so that it will change the date in your report every day. This is a 3-for-1 here. It's mean, median, and mode. I'm going to show you how to use each of those so that you can do a couple of different different types of analysis on your numbers should you ever need to. And then finally, we'll do a quick and dirty look at the VLOOKUP formula. We won't get into a lot of detail about it, just show you kind of what it does really quickly and some preset examples of how you can use it to your advantage, and then we'll cover it at a later time. So, looking at the sum formula, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Excuse me. Looking at the sum formula, what we'll do is each formula that we use always starts with the equal sign. So we'll type in real quick. You can do it in 2 places. You can select the cell, and then you can click the FX button up here, and it will allow you to choose a function, or you can go in and hit the equals button here in the formula bar, or you can do so directly into the cell. And from here on out, I'll just do them directly in the cell. So equals, we're going to set our formula as sum, and we're going to do simple addition. So the first thing we want to do is, let's say we want to add just 2 cells together. So we want to take cell A3, and we want to add it to cell A4. When you take cell A3 and add it to A4, you should get 6. We do get 6. Now how this works, the sum formula takes the value in cell A3, you can see it highlighted in kind of a blue there, and it adds it to the value in cell A4, which is kind of a greenish color there. Alright, so that's one example of how we can use sum. Now another example is we can sum and we can add the value in A4 plus whatever number we want, so whatever number x. In this case, let's say the x is 21. So for the value in A4, which is currently 4, is 21 plus 4, or 25. Now then, if we change that number and make this 21, so now it's 21 plus 21 should be 42. But as you notice, when I changed this cell, it actually changed the original formula. So let's go ahead and put that back. Sorry. There we go. Another option that you can use is you can actually just use this for, although why you would want to do this, I have no idea. You can actually just do straight up calculations. 8 plus 12. Another option is you can take a cell and you can lock it down. I believe you lock it down with F4. Yeah. You can lock it down so that that cell is absolute. So that cell is never going to change again. Okay? It will always go back to A3 as your first option. And we want to add it to A6 here. So 8 plus 2 should come up with 10. We do. So let's go ahead and drag this down and see what happens. Now then, as you see, 10, 12, and 14. What happened here is it took the cell from A2 and added it to A6. When we drug it down, you see, excuse me, not A2, A3. If you see here, the cell from A3 stayed the same, but Excel auto-corrected and changed it to A7 for us so that when you move down, it will drag it with you. Now you can actually lock down A8 as well with the F4 key, and it will ensure that these two always stay the same no matter how far you drag them. Quick couple of examples. You can use sum for, if I can learn to type, you can use sum for subtraction. So for A4 minus A3, 4 minus 2 is 2. And the same rules apply. You can build numbers in, you can set them as absolute values, as whatever you choose. So, quick example of multiplication here. For using Shift 8, we'll build up the asterisks. A4 times A3, which is 4 times 2, is 8. Now let's change this to 4. So we changed our cell, and it changed it to 16. And if you paid attention there, you saw a whole bunch of cells change. So let's change that back. All right, the key there is to remember the asterisk is your multiplication if you don't already know. Another one we'll want is division. So let's say that we want to know cell A7 divided by cell A5. So that's 10 divided by 6. It will give us 1.6666667. And again, you can drag these down, you can mess with them, but similar to everything you did with addition, you can do over here. You can do one other thing I want you to know is you can drag and do a full series here using the colon, or you can type this in. Usually this is good for dragging, so that it will sum up the entire value. And as you see there, 42, I'm going to highlight this. If we look down in the corner right over here, 42. So we are good to go. So those are the sum formulas. Now then, if formulas, let's go ahead and use our equal sign in the cell here. We'll type in if and open our parentheses. And as you can see, the value says if logical test, value if true, value if false. Now a logical test just means if whatever conditions you want it to meet. So in this case, we want to know if cell A11 equals 2. Okay, if it does, let's type in the letter T, and if not, let's type in the letter F. Now, I used parentheses because these are strings. It will handle strings differently than it will handle numbers. In this case, 2 is true. So let's keep going. Let's assume that something is false. So if A12 is equal to 5, which as we can see it's not, then let's go with true, and let's go with false. It once again correctly told us that it was false. So let's try something else. If cell A13 is equal to 6, then let's go with awesome. So it will actually put the word awesome in there. Or let's go with a number, 12. In this case, it's pretty awesome because it turned out to be 6. But let's change this. And as you can see, it will put in the number value that you choose. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong there. There we go. And the false value can also be a string or a number. Actually, either of these can be strings or numbers. It does not matter. In fact, if statements can be other things as well. So if A14 is equal to 8, then let's make it do some more math. Oops, sorry. Then we're going to sum this. And let's say that it will sum all of these for us, which again turned out to be 42. And if it's not 8, then we're going to make it say fail. Now that, if you notice here, it actually does equal 8, but Excel does not recognize the string here. And since I didn't type out the word 8 and put it in parentheses, it didn't do my sum for me. So let's do this the easy way first and change this to 8. As you can see, it's summed up to 42. All right, so let's change this back now. And as you can see, it changed back to fail. So we're going to fix our formula now and say, I really want it to make sure the word 8 is in there. And as you can see, it turned to 42. So there's a couple of options there. Other varieties of this, actually, when I built this, I had plans to go to go to the right, but I just decided to go down while I was doing this. So just ignore that. Again, you can stack these as deep as you want. When something is true or false, you can actually set multiple conditions. They're called nested if statements. They can get very confusing. It's best if you plan them out early, and we'll talk about that at the tips at the end. So the today formula, this is super easy. It is exactly what it is. Equal sign, today, open parentheses, close parentheses. Today is, in fact, as you see, the 26th of February 2012, and it told me so. Now, one thing you have to remember here, if you use this for reporting, it is only good the day of. If you go backwards and you pull it up for a report that you're going to do in the past, it's going to use today's date. So you'll either need to use a different formula or you'll need to override the formula. What this is really valuable for is that report that you have to do every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and when you run through it, you just need the date to show up and you don't ever want to mess with it. Super easy way to keep that consistent all the time. So let's look at mean, median, and mode. Now then, anybody who is listening to this probably already has enough math to know that the mean is average. So we are going to do average, and yes, I know that there are different types of mean. In this case, we're talking about just the standard mean that you learned in arithmetic back in 6th grade. Excuse me. So we're going to average this out and see what we come up with. Just like these sum values, you can select any number of these that you want. In this case, I want them all so that I can know the true average. At this point, it's 3.6. Let's go ahead and change these. 4. Okay, so as you change the cells, it will actually change the formula's result for you. Now, the median is the exact middle number in this entire population. In this case, this is my population, so, and not a sample, but it would be the sample or the population, doesn't really matter. So let's again look. We're asking Excel to tell us the middle number here. In this case, the middle number is 4. Now, to make this a little interesting, let's go ahead and go up here, get rid of this, and let's say, what is the middle number? Sorry. What is the middle number of these 4? 4.5. It's going to tell you exactly right in the middle. So, perfect. Now then, the mode is the number that occurs most frequently in this batch. So in this case, it's going to be 6. It turns out to be 6. It works just like that. So equals average equals median equals mode. The formulas are built in so that you don't have to worry about them. So finally, let's go ahead and have a quick look at our VLOOKUP formula and how to use it. All right, so the formula is VLOOKUP, open parentheses. Now, if you look here, you'll see there's this gigantic, almost frightening looking amount of information required. All right, so what this is saying is for the VLOOKUP, you want the lookup value. You want to know what matches. So over here, lookup formula, I want to know what matches the number 2 in this table. Now then, ahead of time, I went ahead and set up this table, okay, the one that you're looking at right there. Now, you see there when I highlighted it, it actually shows up as VLOOKUP table, and as I showed in a previous episode, you can choose how to set that. You can choose F5, and the table, since it was already set up, will now show up in green. You can see it highlighted. Well, you can't see it highlighted there. Okay, so now then, column index number, it wants to know what to bring back. So matches 2. What do I need to put in this cell that we're typing in right now? And in this case, since there are only 2 columns here, 1 and 2, I know this is looking a little crazy. There are 2 columns. I want to return the result in column 2 because I want to know if Dustin, in this case, has an assignment in my database of 2. I want it to return his name. And in this case, you have the option of looking for what's called the range lookup is true, approximate, or false exact. Now, I rarely ever have used the true statement. It requires a different level of setup in your data tables, and if you're beginning, I don't ever recommend you use it. Once you know what's going on and you know how to use it, then you probably don't need this anyways. So in this case, we'll go ahead and use 0. and it returns Dustin. Now this is where it gets interesting. Let's just say currently this table only has 2 fields. This table could have 500 fields. You could have 1,000 fields. You could have as many fields as you want. And what you can do is every time that you find the correlating data, so 2 equals Dustin, 6 equals Joseph, 4 equals Brandon, 5 equals William, 3 equals Amy. Okay, so as you can see, they're out of order down here. But once we drag it over, it will actually tell us again. 3 equals Amy, 4 equals Brandon, 5 equals William, and 6 equals Joseph. So you can use that to find numbers when they aren't exactly set up the way that you want them to be. It's a very, very useful formula, especially if you're looking through thousands and thousands of data points. It will save you a ton of time. And we will get to that and cover it one day so that everybody knows exactly how it works. But really quickly again, the key factor, what you're looking for, where you are looking at, which is the table array, what you want it to return, which is the value you want to come back, and then approximate or exact, I'm always looking for exact, so it's always 0. So there you go. Now then, jumping back over here, I wanted to cover a couple of quick tips, just some things that I try to remind myself. So our 5 tips for today. Number 1, keep it simple. If you are working through these, especially with this if statement, they're fun. I love using if statements, but they can get particularly messy. Very, very long, very nasty. I've had if statements that actually went all 7. So if. And all these ifs get very confusing, especially if you try and use them over a lot of data. So if you're becoming complex, then there might be a better way, which leads us into number 2. If your formula is getting extremely long, then it's probably wrong. It's probably not. You're probably either using a tool you shouldn't be using, or you're not using the formula correctly. Now, that's not 100% true. I've seen some extremely long and very complex formulas, but these guys who made Excel are very smart, and if you have to go through the process of wasting a lot of time to write a formula, they probably figured out a way to make sure you didn't have to do that in the first place. So keep that in mind. Number 3, ask for help. And I say this because, even as I'm teaching these, I ran into a situation that I did not know how to resolve the other day with Excel. So I sought out someone in our office who knew a lot more than me about this and said, hey, how do I do this? He walked over in 5 minutes and said, oh, well, use this. And it was a formula I'd never used before. But, once I sat down with him, he did it in 5 minutes, took 10 minutes to show me how to do it, and I know how to do it from now on. So if you know someone who knows how to use it, ask for help. It's definitely the faster way to get to the result, and really all of this is about saving time. So again, as part of that, learn how it works, and then let Excel save you the time. The if statement here and the VLOOKUP statement are more complex. They take a little longer to understand, but they aren't outside of the realm of anyone's ability to grasp them. Once you understand the concept, you realize that you can build this pretty much anywhere that you want to go. So learn how to use them and take the time to really understand them. Once you truly understand them, then they become weapons in your arsenal that you can use in every situation. And then finally, as my friend Steve always says, practice, practice, practice. If you don't learn how to, if you don't practice how to program, then you're never going to know how to program. And practice makes permanent. So there you are. Thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you at the next one. Goodbye.